What is psychology? Aristotle's word psyche referred to the essence of light, plus the Greek word logos, which means the study of. Okay, for psychology, it is the scientific study of behavior and mental processes. When we say behavior or scientific first, when we say scientific, it's a systematic methods. While when we talk about behavior, these are the behaviors that can be directly observed. And for a mental process, this includes your thoughts, feelings, and motives. What are the goals of psychology? Number one is to describe, second is to predict, third is understand, and fourth is influence. What to be described? Information gathered in a scientific studies helps psychologists describe behavior and mental processes accurately. While to predict, psychologists have developed tests that enable employers to predict more accurately, while job applicants will perform their job well. The third, which is understand, behavior and mental processes can be understood using theories or tentative explanation of facts and relationship in science. And the fourth one is influence. Psychologists design intervention that would help a teenage boy with severe depression to help college students select their careers or help parents raise a child while conduct disorder. So what are the early approaches of psychology? There is a Western philosophy, and his name is Wilhelm Wundt, a biology and physiology philosopher. So he is in 1879, he established first psychology lab, and that includes Wood's structuralism, the structures of the mind, and also in the introspection, systematic, detailed self-report. Aside from Wilhelm Wundt, there is also an approaches that was being done, which we call Gestalt psychology. Gestalt psychology is created by Max Wertheimer, a professor of psychology at the University of Frankfurt in early 1900s. He led a group of psychologists known as Gestalt psychologists. So these Gestalt psychologists thought that the human consciousness could not be meaningfully broken down into raw elements as structuralists tried to do. Their approach to psychology was based on the German concept of Gestalt or whole. The whole is different from the sum of its parts. So what else? Another approaches of the psychology is what we call the functionalism. So we have the Western, or what we call the structuralism psychology, Gestalt psychology, and now for the third is functionalism. Was done by William James, one of also a great philosopher. He emphasized how a mental process operates as opposed to the structure of a mental process. James' perspective of psychology became known as functionalism. Functionalism focused on the adaptive value of behavior as influenced by Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. Darwin's theory speculated that certain behaviors or traits that enhance survival are naturally selected. So that's the functionalism. Okay, what else? There is a psychodynamic approach also created by Freud. He is also a philosopher, a psychologist who has this a psychodynamic approach. This includes psychoanalysis. What are the psychoanalysis? Number one, the unconscious thought. It includes the unconscious thoughts, conflict between biological drives and demands of society, and early childhood family experience. So another early approaches is called behaviorism, a true science of psychology. In 1920s, functionalism was slowly began or being replaced by a school of thought referred to as behaviorism. A growing number of psychologists believe that in order for psychology to be taken seriously as a true science, it must focus on observable behavior and not on the mind. Behaviorists believe that only overt, observable behaviors could truly be measured consistently from person to person. Another approach is what we call John B. Watson behaviorism. Watson's first presented little Albert with the stimulus of a white rat. Watson conditioned little Albert to fear a white rat, a rat that Albert had played with earlier without fear. This demonstrated for Watson that observable stimuli and responses should be the focus of psychology. Another one, for the earlier approaches, B.F. Skinner and behavior consequences. Skinner, like Watson, believed that psychology should focus on observable behavior. But Skinner added a dimension to Watson framework, consequences. He believed that psychologists look not only at the stimuli in the environment that cause a particular response, but also at what happens to a person or an animal after the response. What Skinner called the consequence of the behavior. There also comes in what we call the humanistic approach. What is humanistic approach? That includes positive human qualities, potential, free will, and notable humanistic theories under Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow. So there is another approach aside from humanistic approach is what we call cognitive approach. Cognitive approach includes mental processes involved in knowing, information processing. When we say information processing, how humans interpret incoming information, weigh it, store it, and apply it. Okay. On the next meeting, we'll be discussing about the early approaches, which is the birth of positive psychology. So I do hope that you will be here again for the next meeting. Thank you.